I'm Michael Jacobsen. Welcome to today's episode of The Business of Creativity. Today we interview Annabel Karmel. Annabel is one of Britain's top entrepreneurs and one of the world's best-selling authors. She has sold millions of books around children's food and has created an empire selling children's products in many countries around the world to all of the world's leading supermarkets. Her app is the #1 app in Britain and she's widely regarded as a top entrepreneur in the UK. Let's see what she's got to say on the business of creativity. Annabel Karmel, thanks for being on the business of creativity.
It's great to be here, thank you.
You're a best-selling author. You've written 41 books, one of which I believe holds the record as the #2 best-selling non-fiction hardback of all time. Your books are sold in a variety of languages all around the world. You started off as a singer and a harp player.
Yep.
What was the plan? How did you come about to be where you are today?
Well, it's very different. Yeah, I studied classical harp and then I kind of did things like played with Boy George and did pantomime and Cinderella, and I played concerts, and it was an interesting career and I loved it. And then I had a child after trying for many years to get pregnant. Eventually gave birth to a little girl, and unfortunately she died when she was 3 months old. So that really changed my life, and I knew then that I wanted to work with children. And I just felt the music was too superficial for me. I really wanted to do something to help children that could be a legacy to Natasha. And I had another child, Nicholas, and he was the world's worst eater. And that was when I kind of thought about food and how one's life is really determined by how good your diet is. And I ran a play group called Babes in the Wood. It was in St. John's Wood. And I had lots of mums there, and I was giving them all these recipes that I made for Nicholas to get him to eat. And they said to me after a few months, you know, these are great. You should write a book about feeding children. And I'm thinking, me, I can't even type. Like, me write a book. But then later on I thought, well, maybe this will be a great sort of legacy to Natasha. And I wrote the book. It took me over 2.5 years. And I worked with like all the experts in everything to do with nutrition, allergy experts, pediatric allergy specialists, pediatricians, whatever, and they all contradicted each other. So it was the most difficult book ever to write. And then I worked for the Institute of Child Health, so that everything in the book was based on scientific research, because there were so many old wives' tales out there. No wonder people got muddled. Right. And the book I finished, and then I looked for all the different publishers I thought would be good, and I went to them and I sent my manuscript, and they all turned me down. Every single one of them. Typical entrepreneurial story. And no literary agent would take me on. In fact, most of them just didn't even reply, because no book on feeding children had ever been a commercial success. I mean, I couldn't have chosen a worse subject matter. So basically, I thought I'd wasted 2.5 years of my life writing this book. And then I was playing tennis with somebody, and he said he knew a book packager. And he showed it to them, and they liked it. They took it to Frankfurt Book Fair, and Simon & Schuster, big American publisher, decided to take it on and publish it. And then Random House published it, and it sold out within 3 months. And yeah, it's the second best-selling hardback non-fiction book of all time. It sold 4 million copies, and I now have the top literary agent in the country. So it just shows you, you know, do not be put off. No. I think, in fact, you're in good company with J.K. Rowling and Frederick Forsyth if everyone has turned you down. Yes, and it's amazing the drive that continues it was hard. Within you to keep going, notwithstanding that. And good that you have that tennis partner as well. Yeah, thank God for him. It just shows you've got to speak to people what you're doing. Yes. You know, don't hold back. Had I not spoken to him, I probably would never have had that book published at all. I think that's very important. A lot of people are too scared to talk about what they're doing. Yeah. Okay, sometimes some things are confidential, but in general terms, it's good to put it out there, right? I think so too. Know how it will bounce off somebody. And that first step is always the hardest, to get on that ladder. To get the leg it was really difficult. And, you know, I nearly gave up, to be honest. I mean, I thought it was a good book, because I knew that mums needed this. And now it's become the gold standard for children's nutrition, which leads us to the next comment, which is that I think your mission now is to raise the standards of children's eating. Yes. And is that what really drives? I mean, you've obviously relayed your personal story with your personal family tragedies, and is that mission now what drives you? Yes, I think that because of what happened to me and the tragedy in my life, you want to make a difference. It really has a profound effect on everything you do in your life. And I thought that the one thing that determines a child's future is what they eat. So for me, when people write to me like, you know, they just couldn't get their child to eat, and then they use my book, they love the recipes, that for me is like, I've done what I wanted to achieve. But it's kind of become much bigger than I ever thought it would be. I mean, in the back of my mind, I thought I would probably go into the food business, but I wanted to be a mother as well. So I didn't actually really be practically proactive about it. But Marks and Spencer's called me up in the year 2000. I'd already written 17 books by then and asked me to develop their food range, so I worked for them. Then I worked for Boots, and I developed a baby food range for them and a range of products. And both of these did quite well, but they weren't my own ranges. And I thought, like, me, Annabel Karmel, could I do a food range with all these massive companies with huge marketing budgets? And I thought, well, maybe. So I hired a consultant and I found a factory, and I sold my first range in Sainsbury's. It was a range of chilled meals for 1 to 3 year olds. There was nothing on the market like it. It was all 4 years plus, so nothing for young children. And that's what started my career. That was in 2006. And now we're in almost every supermarket with a huge range in Australia. We're going into Holland. It's become a global food business.
So you didn't plan world domination. Basically, you followed your passion, you followed your nose, and that took you where you are now.
Yeah, I don't think I planned it. No, I didn't actually. It was something, circumstances. Now I plan it, but at the time it was like, I'm not sure that I had the confidence, to be honest, to think that I could do it.
And you don't know what you don't know.
No, I mean, I didn't have any business training. I was a musician.
And what do you got people all around the world gravitating towards your books and buying your products in Australia and Holland and many other countries. What is it that attracts people to your? What is it that attracts people to your product in particular?
Okay.
What is it that's speaking to people in different cultures, different languages, different places?
I think I'm a mum. I've had 4 children. I've been through all the trials and tribulations of getting your children to eat, and you almost lose the will to live. They are so difficult and so fussy. They are the fiercest food critics ever. And when I wrote my book, everyone said it had to be bland. But I thought, well, we don't like bland food, so why should children? So I put it to the test, and I made bland food, and I made really tasty food with garlic and herbs. And guess what? They didn't like the bland food. And my books were very different because I was trying to explain, like, you've got to give iron, you've got to give essential fatty acids almost within the first few weeks of weaning. People were just giving fruit and vegetables, which is low calorie, low fat, not what children needed. There were so many things wrong with the way people were feeding children, and people were turning to giving them jars of baby food which have a long life, and therefore they're heated to a high degree, so they don't contain the nutrients of like a freshly mashed banana. But people thought somehow they were better. But my books kind of turned the table, like, actually, you know, it's very easy to make your own fresh baby food. I did all the planners, so every day I explained what they needed and how you could give your child a balanced diet over a whole week. And it just caught on, this book, because I think people understood how easy it was to create fresh food, and that was probably the best way to feed your child. I gave them that confidence.
It's interesting because, I mean, it's a common stream that one hears when talking to other entrepreneurs. I certainly relate to it as well. You get evidence, you get feedback, well, not so much evidence, but feedback, comments, opinions from a variety of people. But at the end of the day, you stuck to your gut feel with what you thought should be in the book, which was ultimately authentic, which is probably what people resonate with anyway.
Yeah.
And you did it that way,
I did.
And you weren't swayed by
No.
people's irrational opinions, and that was what produced your success.
I think the why you do something is very important, because there's hard times in every business. And the why I did what I did was because I lost Natasha. And so there was a big drive for the passion that I had for writing the book, because for me it was my legacy to my child, and I felt like, why did she live, why did she die? So this is a really important book to me. I call it like my 5th child. And I really wanted to have her make a difference to other people's lives, and that's what I set out to do. So I was determined to get that book published, and I was determined for that book to be something special, and she will live on well beyond me, because she was really the reason that I wrote that book.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and the why is important. I think it has to be authentic.
Yes.
Don't do something just because you think it's going to make money, because I never thought it would make money. I never thought this book would ever do well commercially or set me up as a career. That wasn't why I did it. And, you know, I mean, money wasn't the motivation.
And a lot of what you said, including that, I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs, in fact, most successful entrepreneurs agree that money is not the motivation, which to a lot of people sounds alien or inauthentic. And it is a paradox, which I happen to believe is true, though. Money is not the motivating factor for entrepreneurs. You have, however, achieved commercial success, but doing it authentically and following an authentic why, you have managed to build a business which in turn goes on to do good things and contribute to social causes, as well as, you know, generating a return and employing people and so on. But do you consider yourself an entrepreneur? Yes,
definitely. My definition of an entrepreneur is, well, it's not a part-time job, it's not a full-time job, it's a lifestyle. You live and breathe it, and you work harder than anyone else, because you don't really have any time off. I'm always thinking about work. I go to bed really late, like doing emails. I'm always like multitasking. But an entrepreneur who, like, if a door is closed, you find a way in through a window. And I always think there is a way to do something, even when someone says no. And I love what I do. And I think you have to follow your passion. I think it was Steve Jobs who said, you know, never give up. it's like matters of the heart. You need to do something that you love, and if you do something you love, you never do a day's work in your life. Right. And I feel like that about my work. I do love it, and yes. I'm as passionate as I always was about it, if not more so. But now that I employ people, you have to earn money because you have to pay their wages. When it was just me, it didn't matter so much. But now I employ 12 people and we're growing, and so I have to make it a commercial success.
Yes. And what's a typical workday look like for you? Because you're an entrepreneur, you're also contributing significant content to the business through actually writing the books and how day to day is your involvement in the business, and how does the structure look like with the other team, with the other 12 or 11 team members?
There's no typical day. So today I started off at Allianz Park with Nigel Ray, who's an investor of mine. So I was at a rugby ground, and we were talking about, you know, how we'd done this year and all the things, plans for the future, and explained to him. And I'm also looking to fundraise at the moment. So we're going into China. And they've relaxed the one-child rule in China, so they've got 19 million babies at the moment in China, and it's growing. And I'm working with a big company in China, which has a parenting WeChat site with over 1 million people. I'm going to be doing nutrition for them, and we've just designed a whole new range of baby food and snacks to go into China. So we had a big meeting about that today. So there's always something going on.
You're, whatever maybe the biggest strategic projects are of the moment, you're floating around focusing on them, while the rest of the team are keeping things ticking over on a day-to-day basis.
Because it's a small team, we all muck in. I mean, there's no real boss in my company. I think you know, I always try and employ people who are more intelligent than me and better at what they do than I do. I mean, I do my own Instagram, for example, and I think because I do my own Instagram, I absolutely understand social media. I know what works. I know what engages people on a day-to-day basis. Yes, if you're not doing it yourself, how do you know? You can't just employ people to do things. And I get involved in everything in my company, but also like when I have good people, I just let them get on with it, and I delegate to them, and it's important. And I think that's another thing. If you're an entrepreneur, like if you try and do everything yourself, you'll fail. Like I don't like contracts particularly, and I'm not particularly good like an accountant. I get other people to do that, and they explain it to me. But you can't do everything. I'm much better off doing creative things and designing recipes and looking at packaging, and that's what I enjoy. Yeah,
you've got to stick to
exactly.
to the skill set,
so
and
get
know
help
what
with
you
the
don't
things,
want to do.
you're not so good at.
And you are sometimes involved in the detail of the business, albeit maybe not contracts or accounting. How, in the midst of doing that and doing the investor meetings and focusing on Chinese strategies and market entry, how do you then, what is your creative process? How do you feel inside yourself that a new book's coming on, and what, you know, where does the inspiration come from about what the theme should be, and how you make it different to the other 41 books that you've written? And
yes, it's always interesting because baby-led weaning, for example, where a baby feeds themselves rather than fed with a spoon, has become quite popular, and my books are mostly about like purees and finger foods together. But I thought I'd had a lot of comments, now I don't use your books, I do baby-led weaning. So I'm thinking maybe I should write a book on baby-led weaning because it's become very popular. So I published it myself, which was quite an interesting exercise to publish your own book. And it's become a very, very successful book, which just shows you like you don't necessarily need a publisher. Things have changed so much. And about 5 years ago, I developed an app, and I just thought I want to do an app. My publisher wanted to do it with me, and I thought, no, I want to own my own content this time. And halfway through, I thought, wow, what am I doing this for? It's so hard. It's the #1 best-selling app. It beats Jamie Oliver's on babies and toddler food. Wow. So I think sometimes you don't trust yourself and you think other people are more expert than you or have better relationships with people than you. But you know what? You can do it yourself. Yes. If I can do it, then other people can do it.
You just get on and do it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not doing the next book, actually. I'm doing it with a publisher because I wrote an article in the bookseller about self-publishing, and another publisher came along and stole me away from Random House and gave me a good deal. So yeah, so I've got a new book out in June called Real Food That Kids Will Love. So I just finished that. I'm always writing a book. I'm always cooking.
Always.
That's my
tinkering
heartland.
away during the course of the day, in the midst of other things. You're allocating a couple of hours a day, or
every Tuesday. I cook the whole day.
Right. So every Tuesday, and writing.
And then I write it in the evening. I write up what I've cooked. And I'm always writing. I go to bed very late, so I work during the day in my office, but there's a lot of distractions and talking to people, helping people.
Because it's hard to create in that environment, right?
Well, you're overseeing everything everybody else does, and you've got meetings. Right. But in the evening, like I come home, and it's like I have dinner, and then I work again. And then I go to bed very late, and then I watch a box set. And then I fall asleep. I think I've watched the same episode like 5 times before I actually watch it all the way through.
Sounds like a full day, almost a 24-hour day by the sound of it.
Yeah.
Can you talk us through some of your products? So you've already mentioned some of them, but there's a whole bunch of them for sale in different markets.
Yes. So we started off with chilled meals for toddlers for 1 to 3 year olds. So we've got 12 different meals in Sainsbury's, Tesco, Ocado. But now we have a frozen range as well. So that's gone into Morrison's, Iceland, Asda, Tesco. And we have a baby food range, but we're completely redesigning that. So that launches again in May or June. And we're launching a snack range as well. And in Australia, the number one frozen food company contacted me about 2.5 years ago and asked me to work with them to design a range for children in Australia. And we launched in Coles with 33 products. And now we just got into Woolworths. So we're in like 1,700.
So you're the two major
yeah, I know, it's amazing. I never thought I'd be in Australia. It's like, how did this happen?
I saw you there, in fact. Not you, I saw your products.
You saw my meals. They're really popular.
Yes.
They're really popular. So it's
They're
brilliant.
in a good position on the shelves too.
Yeah,
which is
no,
important.
we have like a whole freezer cabinet. It's fantastic. And we have frozen baby food as well. So it's fantastic. I never imagined to be in Australia, but it's great. And now we're going into Holland. And I'm going to Dubai in 2 weeks' time to do Taste of Dubai. And we have like lots of ranges in the Middle East as well. So we're doing quite a lot outside of the UK. But China is a new territory for us. So we're launching there quite soon. So I think it's all about like, if you believe it's possible, you can do it. It's having faith in yourself. And I think confidence is just as important as competence, because you can be confident, very good at what you do, but unless you're confident and you can express it and sell it to somebody, you're never going to get it out there. And
you have to relay that, because in turn people will have confidence in you, right?
Yes.
If you have no confidence in yourself, well,
that's right.
Who's going to back you?
Yes. But I don't know, like underneath it, everybody like lacks confidence to a certain degree, and so do I. So you have to kind of push yourself into new territory and break new ground. And I always think, like, entrepreneurs, if you play it too safe, you'll never get there. Because part of being an entrepreneur means you are going to fail. I have failed in several different things that I've done. But actually you learn a lot through failure, and you usually get to the next stage. But somebody who is afraid of failure won't really make an entrepreneur. We do take risks.
We do, yes.
And we learn by doing things, and you can't always play it safe.
And a lot of people that I know who are, earning big salaries in companies or investment bankers have said, how do we become more entrepreneurial or intrapreneurial within our own companies? And I said, well, the best way is to go to HR and tell them, cut off your salary for next month, cut off your salary indefinitely, and then see how you go. Because it's that when you're supporting yourself, it also creates more ingenuity.
Yeah, it's tough. I think sometimes, but when someone's starting out, I say to them, maybe don't quit your job completely, or get a job in the industry where you want to develop your own business. So I worked for Marks and Spencer, and I worked for Boots, and I learned on the job. It's like going to university and being paid for it. It's brilliant. And I developed a range for Marks and Spencer, learned a lot from them, then developed a co-branded range for Boots, and then I did my own range. So actually, it's a good idea working for someone else in the industry you want to go into and develop your own.
Because you're absorbing the knowledge and you're in that market.
And you learn by some of the mistakes you make for other people too. Don't make them yourself. That's good. But there's one other thing that I think is really important. A lot of people think they can do their research by sitting at a desk and looking at a computer. But let's say you want to open a cafe in Battersea. The best thing you can do is go and sit in a cafe in Battersea and see how many people come in and what they order. Otherwise, all you know is like what the rent is and how much it's going to cost you to pay for your staff. But you don't actually know how much you're going to make. And that could save you from opening a disastrous business with a lot of capital outlay. And I think doing your research is so important.
Yes.
Before you make that first step. Especially if you're going to have to invest in something. Luckily, what I did, I literally worked from my dining room and I wrote like 15 books, and I never even had an office. It took me a long time before I had one member of staff.
Wow.
But some businesses aren't like that, and you have to spend money on them. So just make sure that you are sure that what you're doing is going to cover its overheads, and never mortgage your own house for a new business. Not a good idea.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
You've talked through a lot of it, but I want to talk about particularly about small and medium enterprises and creative businesses in particular. There's a statistic often quoted in pretty much every Western country around the world that 98% of small businesses fail within the first 3 years, which to me is a totally unacceptable statistic, but people seem to accept it and get on with life. And if that could come down to 88%, what a difference it would make to the world. What do you think? You've discussed a few extremely valid points already, but if you had a room here full of creative startups who are starting up businesses in various different areas of the creative sector, what would be the top piece of advice that you would give them to say, this is what you should hold on to and use to guide yourself when you're sort of walking around in the dark?
Yes. Don't be afraid to get a mentor, and you'll be surprised that people who are quite well known in their own field will help young people starting up. A lot of people contact me and I help them with their businesses. And if you can learn off the experience of someone else who's been in a similar business to you, it's invaluable. So that's very important. Also, getting EIS money or crowdfunding rather than using your own money, if possible, is a good idea, especially if you don't have much of it and you don't want to risk everything you have on your business. If you really believe in it and you've got a good business plan, you can do that. And there are lots of ways of starting up a business with funding. So that's really helpful. And delegating. You can't do it all. Like there's some things you're not going to be very good at, and get other people to do that for you. Yes. So that's very important as well. And talking to other people. I mean, I talk to a lot of people about my business. And had I not talked to that person who was somebody I played tennis with, I don't think I'd have ever got a book publishing contract. You never know where you're going to get this break from. That was my first break, was getting it published.
Yes. And once you got the first break, you're
yeah, that's the most difficult thing. I mean, if that book hadn't been popular, I guess that would have been the end of my career. So I was lucky that the first book was popular.
Yes. But you had to get positioned to that first.
Exactly.
Great advice. Very accomplished businesswoman. You got a Queen's Medal, an MBE. You're running a business with an altruistic goal and vision and mission. What does success look like for you over the next decade?
Well, I like helping other people. I've become a patron to Julia's House, which is a hospice for children. And together we managed to raise £2 million for another hospice in Wiltshire. So that means a lot to me, putting something back. And growing my company now, because I think that we haven't had much funding. I've had £1 million in the total time that I've had my business. Wow. So I'm looking for more funding now to do some very interesting things and global expansion and to grow the business here. And that allows me to employ more people. I've always worked with a very small team. We're always so overworked and everybody's multitasking. And I'm just buying the building next door so that we can have double the space, because people are actually sharing desks at the moment. Yeah. So yeah, growth of my company and spreading the word, making sure that children eat healthy food and that it's my food because it's the most tasty, and that I make a difference and it will outlive me. And I always think what you do for yourself dies with you, but what you do for others will live on. And I believe that what I've done will live on beyond me.
On that note, Annabel Karmel, thank you for being on the Business of Creativity.
Thank you.